Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets trailed, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, just that star-spangled banner, yeah, wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave.
Hello, I'm Willie Jones. Have you had a run-in with the local law enforcement? Last weekend, I found myself in the custody of the sheriff's department. I wasn't ready for it either. As a matter of fact, I was becoming popular a lot faster than I wanted, and my cellmate started calling me Sugar Britches. I didn't know what to do. Fortunately, I heard about Kenny Bun bail bond. Kenny himself came and got me. My virtue was saved. So remember, if you find yourself against the local law enforcement, don't wait. Call Kenny Bun bail bonds at 256-237-9996. That's 256-237-9996. Or have somebody go by the office at number 30 East 14th Street in Anniston. That's Kenny Bun bail bonds. They'll have you out before you can hear the words Sugar Britches. The views and opinions expressed on the Honest Answer radio show are the opinions of Honest Answer Media and no one else. If you're hearing a syndicated broadcast of this show, don't hold it against the broadcaster. Rather, congratulate them on their openness, tolerance, and respect for the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. Thank you very much.
I heard about a man one day, he wasted not his time away. He prayed to God. He prayed to God every morning, noon and night. Cared not for things about trusted one who never fails. So Daniel prayed. Oh, Daniel prayed every morning, noon and night.
Oh, Daniel served God while upon the
He trod, he prayed to God.
He prayed to God every morning,
noon and night.
he cared not for the king's decrees, but trusted God to set him free.
Decree, oh, Daniel prayed.
Oh, Daniel prayed every morning,
Noon and night.
And welcome one more time to Honest Answer Radio here on honestanswerradio.com, where we're kicking the mainstream media in the teeth every chance we get. If this is your first time listening to the show, I'm going to be the Marty half of your dynamic hosting duo this evening.
And on this Thursday evening edition of Honest Answer Radio, I will be the Casey half.
All right, guys. I hate to break it down to you like this, but this is going to be yet again another show very similar to the last one we did, because quite frankly, we just, well, the only way I know how to put this is I just don't feel unburdened yet. I don't feel like we've quite gotten our entire
Our thought process.
yes.
I tell you,
yes.
you know what it is, man? We took that short break, and both of us, since we couldn't get on the air, I think we both sat separately and saw just how crazy things have gotten. And, you know, I know some people think we're preaching. No, this ain't preaching, folks. We're just going to try, what we're trying to do is put things in perspective the way that it's been put in perspective for us, because, man, things are weird. If we bog ourselves down, and that's what Marty and I had gotten, we had bogged ourselves down in all the details of each individual's...
The day-to-day details.
This day-to-day detail of this scandal and that scandal and the other scandal.
It's too much.
And, frankly, we're not able to treat each subject, each type of subject matter with the seriousness or the depth that we need to. So tonight's show will be almost a single topic.
Yeah, almost, for the most part.
Because there's a big, big issue staring us right in the face.
Well, and it's, you know, during that our week off, I even went on Facebook, and I had this little rant about how sick I was of people telling me how sick they are of politics. After I got that thing written and put out there in the ether world, a couple of days later I was sitting around thinking about it, and it dawned on me. I am sick to death of politics, too. I have had it up to here with politics and the political world in general. I understand people's, and would the word be antipathy?
Yes.
I understand their antipathy for politics. Why people hate it so much, because it is so sleazy.
Another word for it is disgust.
Yes. And it is this overwhelming sense of helplessness. I mean, at times, looking at the condition of our country, it's like being a friend or relative or spouse of somebody that is dying of cancer or some fatal disease. You see it happening, and you feel so helpless that there's nothing you can do to stop it. Or you're watching somebody bleeding to death, and you don't know how to staunch that blood flow.
Except this is politics, and it's actually, I think, a more accurate metaphor. It's like watching a family member who's a drug addict, and
you know the proper fix.
Yeah, you know that all you have to do is tell them, hey, quit doing the meth.
Yeah.
Quit doing the heroin. We'll get you some help.
Uh-huh.
And they keep going, no, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It's more, and you're helpless.
And frustrated.
And that's it. Frustrated because there is a cure. There's an answer.
And it's right in front of everybody's face. It's simple even. It doesn't require bloodshed or violence. It requires very little effort. The answer that we've been I almost said preaching there. Did you hear that?
You almost did.
Almost did. Well, what we've been trying to communicate all this time, the answer is it's right there. Today, I watched this video today on the Blaze that had me so furious. I found myself shaking. It was. I almost clipped the audio to play it, but by the time I got to the end of the video, man, that was so profane, I could not. There was no way I was going to sit and bleep out every bad word. This woman, and I use that term, I didn't say lady.
Well, that's a good thing.
I don't even want to use the term woman.
I know we haven't talked about this, but I know what video you're talking about.
I don't even want to use the term woman because she's less than a human being to me at this point in the game. She walks up and sees these pro-life people, and they've got these little pro-life signs in front of them, and they're handing out pro-life leaflets. And, it's okay in this country to be pro-choice. In other words, it is perfectly acceptable to be okay with the wholesale slaughter of millions of unborn babies. But to be pro-life, which is to say you don't want to lend your approval to the wholesale slaughter of millions of unborn babies, that somehow is not only taboo, it apparently strikes this chord of violent rage in a lot of women. Not necessarily men, but a lot of women become extremely violent when they see a man who, by the way, I don't know if these women realize this or not, but in order to make that baby, you got to have a man somewhere in the equation. Science has yet to figure out how to fertilize an egg without a man. Just can't do it. Sorry. Somewhere along that line, there has got to be a man. So this woman, she walks up and just starts dog cussing these people, kicking their signs over, slapping the dude's camera that he's got in his hand. She tells him, if you don't got a uterus, you don't got a right to say anything. You understand what I'm saying? Bleepity bleep and bleep, bleep, bleep.
She actually put her hands on a young kid.
Yeah. And like, they call the cops on this girl. When the cops get there, she's like on a bus. She retreated to a bus. She knew what she had done.
Mm-hmm.
The cops get there. She runs up. Take me. Just go ahead. Take me away. Holding out her hands like she's done something noble by standing up to someone who was trying to stand up for the lives of unborn innocent children. Because the pro-lifers see the value in human life. Now, these are the same, the people who are pro-choice are the same, who will disregard that baby in the womb, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They expect everybody to also look down at what's going on at the border. And they'll be the first ones screaming, but they're just children.
Mm-hmm.
So let me get this straight. You want me to have empathy and sympathy and charity for a child, for like, say, an 8-year-old MS-13 gang member that has already participated in murder and torture in his young 8-year-old life. But you don't want me to stand up for the rights of a as yet to be born baby still in the womb that has not yet been corrupted by this world. Am I on the right track?
You've got it there in a nutshell.
These pro-choicers will, dude, they're perfectly willing to beat the crap out of you. That woman, if she had had a weapon, she would have used it against that young kid.
This is why liberals shouldn't have guns.
Well, this is true. It just baffles my mind to see how whacked out they really are. And they truly believe that if you don't have a uterus, then you have no right to have a say-so in whether or not a woman kills her unborn child. That just blows my mind. That level of idiocy, for lack of a better word.
And, I mean, a complete disconnect from reality. A lot of these people are also against capital punishment. You see, it's the timing.
Yeah.
That's what matters. Now, for the record, I mean, Marty and I have said it again, we're not pro-capital punishment either.
No, not until it's fair.
Yeah, if everybody has an equal shot at getting Johnny Cochran for a lawyer, or in other words, the best of the best, until that day, no, we're not pro capital punishment either because they've killed some innocent people.
Yeah. It's not like we're being inconsistent here. But
And-
if you look at what comes out of the left, and believe me, when I say left, pro-choicers eat the left up. I mean, they are almost predominantly left-wingers.
First off, we know a lot of people who are either libertarian or on the right side, the conservative side of
Right.
politics.
Right.
I don't know any of them that are pro-choice.
I have several. We both have several friends, female friends, who are rabid pro-choicers, who will be really quick to tell you and I both that we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to the issue of abortion and a woman's right to choose. Well, by that same token, then I think as a man, I should have a right to choose when to take a life as well. I mean, if I want to take a life at any point, be it, in the womb or out of the womb, well, nobody should be able to say that, hey, man, if you don't have the same man parts that I do, then you ain't got a right to tell me when I can take a life or when I can't. It's the same logic. Maybe, I don't know. I just find it outrageous that they have no compassion for an unborn child, but expect me to have compassion for a murderer just because he happens to be under the age of 14. That I'm having a really, really hard time with. My Christian convictions right now are at war with each other, because when you take this border issue, these children, there's a huge part of me that understands where Glenn Beck is coming from, that these people are already here. We do need to feed them. We do need to give them water. We do need to give them, basic human necessities, so that they're not like in concentration camp situations, where they're starving or.
See, I can go along with that.
Or disease running rampant.
Because they're already here illegally.
Right.
But they did cross our border. They're, regardless of how they became our problem, until we can get them out of here,
we do
they
have to deal
are
with them.
our problem. But, and this is where I think we're probably departing from the Glenn Beck side. The number one priority in my mind, after feeding them, clothing them, getting rid of the scabies, because I don't want scabies running rampant through our country, okay, is how fast can we get them back to the country, or I would say not back to their home country, but back across the border into Mexico, which is where they came from in the first place, and tell Mexico, you let them come through.
Right.
They're your problem.
Mm-hmm. I've got some the little bit of audio that I have tonight. It's all dealing with this border issue, and in one of the audio clips I've got, they're like, "So we should just really send them back across the border? These children?" Abso-freaking-lutely. Yes, we should ship them back across the border. If they don't have a parent, and their parents were willing to put them on one of those death trains to get here, I feel horrible for the child. I do. But this is not on the United States. Where is the United Nations?
Yeah, why has the president of Mexico, why is he not standing on the carpet in front of the Secretary General of the United Nations right now,
or even the presidents of these other countries,
being chewed out for, what do you mean you let them just pass all the way through your country? You didn't feed them. You didn't clothe them. You didn't get rid of their scabies. You didn't get the lice off of them. Where
a train derailed today.
Yeah,
it had what, 1,300?
Yeah,
of these. I hate to even call them refugees, because that's the term the press has given them. These are refugees. I want you to listen to this first clip. This is CNN, all right? CNN's take on this. Yes, Ashley Banfield. She is, at the end of this clip, you will see just how irate she is at any of us who would suggest deporting these kids.
In our experiences, these children do appear for their proceedings if they're represented by counsel, because the lawyer can educate the child about the system, reassure them that appearing in court is something they shouldn't be afraid of, and at the end of the day, they may gain status through the process. So counsel is absolutely essential, both because it's the right thing to do for these children, but also because it makes the court process much more effective, and it does ensure that the kids show up for court.
Wendy Young, it's good of you to join us. Thanks so much for your insight and the work you do as well. It's critical work, and these are kids. Let's not forget they're kids.
Exactly.
And I just want to add one thing here before I go to break, and that is this. For any of you out there who are about to tweet me saying that I think illegal immigration is just fine and that they should all be let over the border, stop right there. That's not what this is about. If you've ever been in a war zone, which I have, and I have seen refugees pouring over borders, half their families murdered, the other half tortured, they're running for their lives, many of them women and children, it is devastating. It's devastating. And God help if you're ever in need of help and you show up and there's a bus telling you to get out. This is America. Just read what we're about.
Okay. Ash. Can I call you Ash? Because I'm going to call you Ash. Have been in a war-torn country. And, I really appreciate your stance that you have been to some really hard places and seen some hard things. Saw refugees fleeing one country, into another because half their family had been murdered and the other half's missing or whatever. Oh, man, that's some heart-wrenching stuff. The problem I have with her stance is I don't know exactly what war-torn part of the world she's been to. But I can tell you from personal experience that when you're getting down into Central and South America, or if you even want to get down to the brass tacks of things, if you get below the border, southern border of the United States, once you cross that southern border, there is a very different view on human life and its value. And we've already, I've read article after article after article quoting Border Patrol agents who have interviewed some of these kids. Mm-hmm. This one guy said that he just got through interviewing a 12-year-old who fully admitted to being a member of MS-13 and had no problem admitting that he had taken his first life at the age of 8. Notice I said his first life. So to all of those who were saying, they're just children, let me flip that coin on you. Well, obviously, you've not only never been to a war-torn country, but you've never been south of the border, and you've never had a 12-year-old fire an AK-47 at you. Smiling gleefully as they do it. See, south of our border, when you get down into Mexico and Central America and South America, it's a whole different culture. Those quote-unquote children have no concept of it being wrong to take a human life. Because where they come from, it is perfectly acceptable and quite profitable to their families if they do that very thing. They will participate in torture, not even blink, not care. And these kids are flooding our southern border right now. And we've got the Ashley Banfields of the world saying, these are just children. We've got to help them. We've got to keep them. It's what America is about. No, Ashley. Actually, America is not about admitting murderers into our country, regardless of their age.
We say, give us you're tired,
You're poor,
and you're poor,
you're hungry,
you're huddled masses.
yearning to breathe free.
There's nothing in there that says, send us your thugs,
Your rapists,
your rapists,
Murderers.
your gang members, your murderers, your drug traffickers, your sex traffickers.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing that anywhere on the Statue of Liberty.
I mean, no, that's not what we're about. We're not here to welcome everyone into the country. And this is where we really diverge from the libertarian crowd that is all about open borders. They think we should open up our borders.
No, that's insane.
That is insanity, but look, man, there's a reason why a lot of people, when you say something about libertarianism, why some people roll their eyes. And that's
How can they be
one of the big
open border and isolationists at the same time? See, that don't make no sense.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people like that. They think actually if we just open up our borders, everyone will suddenly love us. No, let me tell you what happens. If we open up our borders, people who don't like us and who want to fundamentally transform us come right on in. We welcome them in. We kick the door open for them, and here they come. And they start fundamentally transforming our towns, our cities, and our countryside.
Just like they're doing right
into
now.
Pot farms,
Yep.
sex trades,
Yep.
little fiefdoms
Yep.
of gang warlords.
Yep.
Because why? Because that's the culture that they come from.
And they expect us, because this is America, to absorb and conform to their cultures. As if because America is a melting pot made up of immigrants, that there's no such thing as an American culture. That we're supposed to conform to their way of life. You go down to the state of Texas or New Mexico or Arizona and get really close to the border. You will find hundreds of thousands of people that flat refuse to speak English. They will fly their Mexican, Ecuadorian, Honduran, or Guatemalan flags proudly. They want no part of quote-unquote Americanism. They just want to live here. That's not America either. Like I said, I'm conflicted. I see Glenn Beck's point in there here, we got to do something. And I applaud him for it. I do. Because this, for somebody in Glenn Beck's position, it is one of the gutsiest moves I've ever seen. To go public and say, you know what, I'm sending tractor-trailer loads of food, clothes, and soccer balls and teddy bears to some of these kids. Because they're here. That's really gutsy for somebody in Beck's position. What a lot of people aren't playing about Glenn Beck is he's also saying, and then let's get them back to where they came from. I heard on MSNBC they were saying, you know, as long as they're here, we've got to take care of them while we work to make the necessary changes to the law so that the president can act. Okay, number one, the president's, there's no action needed by the president if you want to get down to it because he's already acted. This is Cloward and Piven 101. This is Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. This is designed. I mean, I know people call that some kind of kooky conspiracy theory, but it's hard to call it a conspiracy theory when people were predicting this long before it happened and saying this is what the president is going to do. And lo and behold, that's what happened.
Well, you know, man,
it's only a conspiracy theory when you can't prove that it happened or how it happened. But when there's a clear path.
When people were already saying, okay, this is how it's going to happen.
And then it happens that very way. It's no longer a theory.
So how come we're crazy for pointing out the past? Okay, you know, you and I were talking about this earlier. You know, I'd seen yesterday where so many people across the internet were saying they were shocked that the president wouldn't go down to the border while he was already fundraising in Texas.
Right.
Why
Playing
he wouldn't
pool.
why he wouldn't go down to the border if for nothing else but the photo op. Look, I'm going to tell you what President Obama is going to do for the next year and a half.
Nothing.
He's going to play pool. He's going to drink beer. He's going to play a lot of golf. He's already lining up his next vacation.
Yeah.
Okay.
His plans have already been executed.
Yeah. See, now he coasts. Mm-hmm. He and Michelle are going to eat shrimp cocktails on our dime.
Oh yes.
And eat kale. And take their vacations, and he's going to coast and delay and delay and delay. He's not going to tell Eric Holder, buddy, you're doing a bad job. Get on out of here. I know you were going to retire anyway, but get on out now. No, that's not going to happen. He's not going to go to Jay Johnson. You know,
no, they were put in place because they would do exactly what he wanted them to do.
They have done what he wanted. You know, the fact that the people are already here crossing our border, this was exactly what he wanted. We told y'all, not just us, Mark Levin, Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Laurie Ingram. I mean, do I need to go on? But all these people, ourselves, telling you over and over and over again that this is what he wanted. So I was not surprised when I saw the photos of him playing pool, and when I saw the photos of him smiling and laughing when he was meeting with Rick Perry.
Yeah.
Yesterday, you know, you got Rick Perry's side of the table where these guys are serious and they're looking kind of mad. And Obama and his guys, they're just grinning like possums. You know, and
because it's going off without a hitch,
and
man.
Rick Perry is saying, I don't even think he heard me. Well, no.
Of course he didn't.
He went to that meeting because it's what you do. You go to the meeting. You show up. Look, he went to that meeting just because it was something he had to get through.
Like his speech that he made today, there's no audio of it for me that I could have clipped. But today he was poking fun at the Republicans for suggesting that he be sued or impeached. For what? For doing my job? You want to sue me for doing my job? Well, you aren't doing your job. All right, Mr. President. Yeah, absolutely. We're suggesting that we sue you, but not for not doing your job. On the contrary, we think you should be sued and or impeached. Definitely impeached. I would even go so far as to say jailed for acts of treason against your own country. You have failed to honor the Constitution at every turn. You've stood in the way of the justice system. Like, literally, you have obfuscated justice being executed. You've lost 14 straight Supreme Court decisions. 14 straight. That doesn't sound like someone not doing their job. It sounds like someone intentionally doing their job poorly. To lose 14 straight Supreme Court decisions, that's not light. He went further to say, I don't remember these people getting mad when George Bush had all of his executive actions. Again, it's not how many, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. It's not how many you've had, it's what you did with them.
And it's also selective memory.
Yeah.
Because there were plenty of people like you and I and other people in the talk radio sphere who were mad
Absolutely.
at George Bush.
Absolutely.
And were squawking and saying, Mr. President, look, we like you, but you can't do that.
From the moment he signed the Patriot Act, there were Republicans and libertarians alike jumping up and down, plenty of people on the right side or the right wing jumping up and down saying, you can't do that.
See, you and I weren't broadcasting on the internet in 2001.
Right.
Okay. But we talked in 2001. And we were both going, we were living in separate cities. You were down here. I was up in Memphis. But every time we talked, it was like, dude, this Patriot Act thing, man, this is a bad idea. The TSA, this is a bad idea. A Department of Homeland Security, that sounds like jackbooted thugs spoken in a different language.
Yeah. Like, sounded like secret police to us at the time.
Because it's like, we kept saying, look, this is the kind of thing that can so easily be turned back inward onto the...
Almost like it's being done right now.
Exactly.
Where if you are, like, take this IRS thing. If you formed a group and you had in your, the wording about your description, if you had anything about Constitution or the word traditional or patriotic or patriotism, something like that.
Tea Party.
You were automatically set aside and targeted and viewed as an enemy. If you look, we've talked about the Southern Poverty Law Center many times. This current administration took their advice and said anybody who uses these words like Constitution and patriotism, they've got to be an enemy of the state. They're anti-government. Now, if you don't agree with the idea of allowing thugs, gangsters, murderers, torturers, rapists, sex traffickers into this country,
possibly even Al-Qaeda terrorists,
you're anti-immigrant. You are a hate monger. You are spreading hatred. All because you wish for your country to be safe and secure. It's really crazy how quickly things have gotten turned around. But at the same time...
the thing is, I don't know if Ashley Banfield has children. I don't know if she's even married. But let's say some of the other people over there at CNN that support her and say, right on, Ashley. Are you going to send your kids to school with some of these 12 or 13-year-old kids who have committed their first murder at the age of 8. By the way, 8 years old, just put that in perspective. That's second grade.
Yeah. By second grade, committed your first murder. Now, I do have some audio of a parent who lives in that area, oddly enough.
In Murrieta, California?
No. This is Houston, Texas.
Houston. Oh, okay. I know this video. Gotcha.
Yeah. Houston, Texas. This was on one of their local news stations. This is how this woman feels about it.
This is where officials with the Department of Homeland Security toured the old Terrell Middle School, considering it to possibly be a holding location for an unknown number of illegal immigrant children. No decision has been made yet for this location, but one resident who said her kids have gone without nothing, have had nothing for years, she says she is furious.
It's not right. Now billions of dollars want to be borrowed from the White House to help feed and house them. Where the kids here in our country? Not just in this neighborhood, but in our country. All these kids, really? Why can't they go back? I'm sorry that the parents are in poor living conditions or surroundings or whatever's going on out there. I don't care. I care about what's going on right here in my own backyard, my neighborhood. Am I the only one in this community that's out here that watches the news in the morning? Oh my God. I feel alone right now in this. And I'm very saddened by it.
You know, she brings up a good question. You know, because the one thing that is being thrown out at those of us who are calling this issue into question, but they're children. Well, what about the children? Well, if you're so concerned about children, then what about our own children in this country who are who have poor living conditions or who are in gang-infested neighborhoods like the entire city of Chicago or the entire city of Detroit or Los Angeles, for example? What about those children who, by the way, are citizens of this country? How many billions of dollars are you pouring into those cities to do something for those children? I mean, that's a very sensible question to be asked.
Well, here's another one. Why do we have to borrow money? See, has anybody paid any attention to our national debt?
Yeah, really.
Right now, you know, it's like $14 trillion.
Yeah.
Okay,
and growing
and climbing. All right. We've been pouring money into government programs, and yet down here, and you and I were talking about this today, that we're in the Bible Belt.
Right.
We talked about this last night at our prayer meeting. A fellow from our church, you know, brought this subject up about how you can't really spit without hitting a church here in the middle of the Bible Belt. You know, our church, we feed hungry kids every Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
And, you know, thank goodness for that, man. We're proud to do it. Glad to. Now, some of those kids that get fed, you know, their parents got plenty of money and they feed them just fine. But then some of those kids, you know, their parents aren't so well off and
or even,
you know,
aren't so caring.
And that one meal a week is, you know, it helps, you know, some of those parents out. It's just one less meal that they have to provide. Yeah. You know, because this is an economically depressed people. Jobs are pretty scarce here.
Yeah.
But, you know, some needs are being met, you know, by the churches.
Without
I'm not asking,
having to borrow billions of dollars from the government to do it?
No, see, people at our church give their money in order to feed these kids because we live in a community where people care about each other. Now, see, that's actually, we're not a rarity.
But
this isn't something
you
that
bring up
rare.
churches, they're putting a lot of these people that are flowing across the border. Churches are stepping up. But the thing is, see, this is where things get kind of kind of wacky. These churches are pretty much having to stop their normal duties, if you will, and focus all of their attention and money on these people who are here illegally. No one, I have not heard any of the talking heads on the radio or anybody from right-wing news talk or any of that. Nowhere, no one on Fox has suggested that we stop accepting immigrants in this country. I've not even heard it as a suggestion. I have heard the term secure the border.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski was careful to point out that the president has been pouring, more and more agents down to the border. What she's not saying is that their ability to do their job, which is spin their little behinds back around and push them back across the border, has been taken away from them by Jay Johnson.
She left that part out.
Yeah. She was saying that, the president, he's just waiting on Congress to pass a comprehensive immigration reform, as if all of a sudden we've had no laws on the books to deal with people coming across our borders illegally. Up to this point, it's almost as if we've never had any laws that could tell our border agents or even our customs and enforcement officials what to do.
It's almost as if the Border Patrol agents and the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, it's almost as if they haven't been begging for a seat at the bargaining table to give their own input into what could possibly be done.
And if this administration's intentions were so honorable, if this influx of immigrants were so, such a surprise, and everything was above board, and being dealt with like it's supposed to be, wouldn't you think that they would even allow even a senator or a congressman to go and tour the facilities and speak with people? Because they don't. There was a video the other night with John McCain, his face all red, veins poking out of his forehead and veins in his teeth, screaming at this guy saying, "You got to fix this," because even our sitting congressmen and senators are not allowed to engage with anyone if they go down there to try to tour the facility. Can't take a camera, not a recording device, nothing.
Not even allowed to talk, not just to the immigrants themselves, but not even allowed to talk to any of the personnel who are working.
That's right.
With it.
And the personnel are told that if they speak to anyone, even a senator or congressman, an elected official,
not only will they lose their job, they will be prosecuted.
Yes. So if the president was so concerned about this, why would he be trying to stifle the free speech of the employees down there, those very border agents that he's supposedly sending? Why would he try to stifle their speech? And why would our Department of Homeland Security issue directives that forbid anyone from photographing or recording any of this for posterity?
Why? Here's another one. Why do they have DHS people and other government agencies blocking off public roads so that people can't go and actually see for themselves what's happening?
Yeah, I think Glenn Beck is going to meet some trouble down there, because how is he going to get those truckloads of supplies to the people that he's wanting to get them to when you're not even allowed to get close to any of these facilities. It's really, man, look, this is some creepy stuff that at one time could only have been imagined in the minds of Hollywood movie producers.
Or possibly in the minds of Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Dana Loesch, Glenn Beck, Casey and Marty Rollins.
Yeah.
Crazy right-wing extremist, hate-monger racists.
And you have to ask, I mean, why isn't MSNBC, why isn't Mika Brzezinski asking some of these questions herself? I mean, why isn't she saying, how come a senator or congressman can't talk to these people? Because she's not. Why isn't Ashley Banfield asking this question? Because she's not.
Well, you know, Sally Cohn over at CNN also. Sally Cohn said that the border's working.
There's no border. If it was a border at all, if the border was working, there wouldn't be tens of thousands of these people pouring across.
57,000 on this side of the border.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Expected
so how is
90,000 more by the end of summer.
So how do you figure that the border is working? She acts like it's working because they've been stopped just inside and then whisked away to all these other different facilities. No, Sally Cohn, the border is not working. It may as well not even exist if it's that freaking porous. This is why, you know, I hate to get on the Republican bandwagon, but this is why the Republicans in Congress keep saying, hey, enforcement first. Secure the border first, and then we'll talk about amnesty, or then we'll talk about, you know, extra work visas or whatever.
And if this is such a
border.
surprise, why is Department of Homeland Security already suggesting that there will be 90,000 more by the end of summer? It's almost as if it's expected that many more are going to get across the border. See, this is where mine and Casey's solution to this problem comes in. Because all of the stomping of the feet and the huffing and the puffing and the news stations, you know, all of that is it's doing absolutely no good whatsoever. There's no way to vote this problem out of existence. I mean, they're just really not. I mean, what would we vote on? I mean, how would we vote? What are we going to call a special election to vote on this immigration crisis? No, that's ridiculous. So voting here isn't the answer.
Okay, here's another thing that's not the answer. We can't go get our AR-15s and AK-47s and go start capping people in the head.
Absolutely not.
Okay, as mad as we are about what happens inside the Beltway in Washington, we can't take our AR-15s and stuff and bust up into Washington, D.C. and just go start shooting people into administration and stuff. No, that's not an answer either. Neither is violent demonstrations.
Of any kind.
Yeah, I mean, now peaceful protest, yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But still
it is
not a solution.
No, it won't solve anything unless all of those peaceful protests take place with people linking hands and getting on their knees and praying together. That's the kind of protest that might actually be an answer. But you don't have to go down to the border to do that.
No. As a matter of fact, the hitting of the knees,
You can do it anywhere.
you can do it anywhere,
Everywhere.
at any time.
Everywhere.
You know, we keep saying this over and over again because it's really such a simple concept to Casey and I. And Okay, we get made fun of for this, for suggesting that it would be this simple, particularly from our acquaintances who are of the atheist persuasion. But to Casey and I, the only way out of this is going to be through the power of prayer.
And let me kind of break it down why, in a way that possibly that our atheist atheist friends might even be able to grasp. Never in the history of the world has man been able to solve his problems. Have we cured cancer yet?
Nope. Not that I know of.
Human suffering. Have we stopped it? People have tried. People, human beings, have tried to stop suffering. All we can do is meet suffering on an individual basis and stop one person's suffering at a time. Okay? The one fact that, it's as inevitable as taxes, we all die.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Man has worked. People in the medical industry have been working ever since there was a medical industry to stop death. We can't do it.
Nope.
So, to the atheists and to some of our Christian friends who are sitting on the fence and say we preach too much, look, y'all, when man has created a whole lot of problems, have we gotten rid of atomic weapons?
Nope.
Man created those. Okay? We haven't gotten rid of those. They're still here. We've been working on that problem since 1945. How to get rid of that and close Pandora's box. So what we're saying is there are problems that man can't fix. But as Christians, we know that the problem of death was solved.
Well, as Christians, we also know that there are no problems on this planet that our God can't fix. The thing is, this is where things get tricky. We do have an all-powerful and a very loving God. We serve a loving God. But, see, if we don't communicate with Him and we don't let our requests be made known to Him, He doesn't just, fix the things, particularly problems that we create as mankind. I mean, even as parents, remember I used the parent analogy before.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes as a parent, our children will dig themselves into a hole, and as a parent, you have to sit back and go, okay, you're going to have to solve this one on your own. You did this to yourself. Now you've got to solve it yourself. But I am here to help you. All right? Our God is here to help us. And you look at what we're facing now as a nation, not just this immigration thing. This is just one itty-bitty, teeny-weeny little problem in the grand scale of things. But when you put it with all the other ones, I mean, our nation, we're in big trouble, man. Big trouble. And people like you and I, and like this woman out of Houston, she said she felt alone by herself in this. You and I have felt like we were whistling into the wind for a long time now. We felt like we are vastly outnumbered. The odds are just too stacked against us. This is where things get neat. If you were to take our solution of hitting your knees and praying, you can go back through history, particularly if you use our Bible as your historical guide, You will see many, many, many times where the odds were stacked against the Israelis, particularly from their plight from Egypt on. First of all, the odds of them being freed by Pharaoh, huge, huge odds. Them wandering aimlessly in the desert, and God taking care of them for 40 years. You know, we were talking about this last night too. Moses was 80 years old when he started leading the people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. 80 years old.
Yep.
He could not have done that without God's help. You take a little guy like Gideon, who is vastly outnumbered. Had he not communicated with God, would have been slaughtered.
Yeah, because God told him, you've got too many warriors.
Mm-hmm.
You
God
gotta
actually wanted him to whittle it down a little bit more.
And actually, he got them down to what, basically, the rednecks in Welborn.
Yeah. Remember we talked about the walls of Jericho Tuesday night. That was insane. The idea that this little band of Israelites was going to take down
the walls of Jericho.
Not just a part of a wall so they could pour in through it, but bring down the entire wall of Jericho. No way could they have done that unless they stayed in constant communication with their God, who coincidentally happens to be our God too.
Well, we were talking about this earlier too. Lot was kidnapped. Sodom got sacked.
Uh-huh.
This is before God destroyed it. Sodom got sacked. The enemy came in, blew through the town, took everybody captive, including Lot, who was Abraham's brother. And some people come running up to Abraham and said, man, they took Lot. So Abraham took just the men that he had with him. I don't remember the number.
Handful, though.
But it was, it's basically a handful of men of
outnumbered
of
10, 20 to 1, something like that.
And they went, and he got Lot back, got all the captives back.
Here's something even closer to home. People, there is no way, without God, there is no way that Christianity itself could have survived for 2,000 years. Not with the efforts that were put forth to stamp it out. Believe you me.
Well,
there have been some people throughout history who have made it very uncomfortable to call yourself a follower of Christ, particularly at the beginning. If there was ever a time when Christianity could be stamped out, it would have been immediately following Christ's death. When the Roman emperors made it a sport of killing Christians, and if it wasn't the Romans,
it was the
Greeks, and then the Jews themselves, one of Christianity's greatest authors all throughout the New Testament, Paul, until he became a follower of Christ, made it a sport of hunting down Christians, and not just persecuting them, but killing them. He even got a written edict from the Jewish leaders to kill them where he found them. There's no way that Christianity could have survived for 2,000 years without constant communication with our Creator. There's no way this country could have been founded without it. We've talked about that a million times.
But look at in the cities of Corinth and Ephesus. Look, these were cities where there wasn't a church on every corner. There was a pagan temple on every corner. Some of those cities had a certain patron god or goddess
Yep.
that, that those people took pride in. And yet Christianity got inside those Greek cities where they didn't just have one god.
No.
They had like tons of them, man.
Had a God for everything.
And yet Christianity got in those cities and lit like a fire. And we have some of the best, greatest books of the Bible come from letters sent to support the folks in those cities.
And here we are as Americans, a country much like the Israelites, that was founded with help from our divine Creator. We have faced many adversities in this country. We would not have made it through any of them had the people of this country not banded together and hit their knees. It's as simple as that. It really is just that simple. I played us in tonight, the song that I played us in with. Daniel prayed.
Morning, noon, and night.
Guys, me and Casey say this a lot. If you're tired of hearing us say this, then let's get it right, and we'll shut up about it.
I'll say this. I've been holding this in. Not a single time ever since we've been ending our show this way, and it's been several months now, not a single time has somebody that's downloaded this show or listened to the broadcast, and we know that it's being downloaded and broadcast. We've got the records on Spreaker.
Yeah.
Not once has somebody said, you know what, guys, I hit my knees last night. I prayed for my country. I hadn't not a single time on Facebook, not in my email, and on honestanswerradio.com, there's an About Us page, who we are, and our email addresses are there. Nobody said, hey, I did it. I'm doing it every day.
Or I'm doing it.
I'm doing it every day. Not once. And I talk to people all the time. I think some of them do. But not a single time has anybody given us the feedback to say, hey, we're praying for our country every day.
I would say we actually get more eye rolls than we get amens at this stage in the game. And that, hey, man, you know what? That's okay.
Well, nobody's paying us to do this anyway.
Exactly. And we're going to keep, we were talking earlier today. One of the things that really has allowed all this stuff to happen is that we as Christians we have become afraid to be a Christian out in the open. And when you think about some of the early Christians, what they went through, like being faced with being thrown to the lions, literally, and being drawn and quartered, or, horrible, crucified for Pete's sake, just for being a follower of Christ. Right? That was some real stuff to be afraid of, man. But in this day and age, in 2014, we as Christians are afraid of ridicule.
We're afraid of being called names.
Mockery. We're afraid of those eye rolls.
But you know what I was thinking today? You and I have both gotten our share of complaints from people about us, quote-unquote, preaching.
Oh, yeah.
Not a single person that has complained to me about that has ever contributed a dime
No?
to what we do. Not a single one of those people
or even
have
an idea
ever,
if you just really want to get down to it.
But not a single one of those has ever hit that donate button. Now, other people have hit that donate button, people that support us.
Yeah.
And people who say, yeah, you guys, y'all keep doing what you're doing. Now, they've hit that button. But still, in all the years that we've been doing this, you can count the amount of money that we've made doing this broadcast in hundreds of dollars. And none of it's profit, because every bit of it has had to get plowed right back into paying the internet bill. Okay?
Or our Spreaker bill.
So if you're out there rolling your eyes and you're complaining, you haven't contributed anything. So we're not going to listen to you anyway.
Not to mention, at this point in the game, I am more afraid of facing my God and having to explain why I didn't speak up and speak out when I had the chance than I am of somebody here on earth pointing their finger at me and going, you know, you're just another one of those Bible-thumping Jesus freaks. Well, first of all, that's not exactly a bad thing for anybody to... I mean, it may seem like an insult to the people that are calling us those things, but if you're calling me a Jesus freak or a Bible thumper, well, yeah.
Well, actually, I don't thump my Bible. I don't abuse it that way.
Well,
I read it.
Okay.
You know,
All right,
it's
I'll
not
give you that.
It's not an accurate description to say I thump my Bible, because I don't. And I don't... have you ever seen... just out of curiosity, we've both been in churches all over the place, man. You ever seen a preacher thump a Bible?
No, I don't even know where that comes from. But apparently that's supposed to be a tremendous insult.
I've seen lots of men of God open their Bibles and read from it out loud. I've seen that. You want to call me a Bible reader? That's accurate. That sticks. You want to call me a Jesus freak?
Not an
that
insult.
That sticks. No, not an insult. No.
As a matter of fact, at this point in the game, I would wear that as a badge of honor. If somebody thinks that's that much that much of me revolves around Jesus Christ, then apparently I'm doing something right.
I don't want to face my Maker when he points to the statistic of how many unborn babies were murdered, and have him say, "Why didn't you say something?
Why didn't you say something?" Yeah.
You know,
when that time comes for me to face my Maker, I have enough explaining to do.
With all the other crap that you've done and I've done.
Up to this point in my life, I'm not going to be the one that he says, why didn't you just tell people to pray? Why didn't you tell people to talk to me? Were you ashamed of me?
Or, you had the internet.
Yeah.
You're doing this radio show. Why didn't you say something?
So we're saying something. And we're going to keep saying it, and keep saying it, and keep saying it. Our country is in turmoil right now. Just look around. We are now living in an upside-down world. Millions of children are being killed in our names every day. They give our money, our tax dollars, go to the wholesale slaughter of unborn children.
Not retail.
Really.
We're talking, when he says wholesale, it's not a cliche.
And it's our money. It's your money, and it's my money that fund this. And if we don't speak out about it, that must mean that we're okay with it. What's going on down there in the border? We don't speak out about it. We must be okay with it. If we don't, they took they took prayer out of school decades ago. Only, it's only really people that I hear everybody all the time say, we should have put prayer, but we got to put prayer back in school. We should have put prayer back in school. Where were you when they took it away? Well, how did it get to the point in this country that our Supreme Court could look around and go, well, I don't think anybody's going to make too big a fuss out of this. I mean, matter of fact, I think this is the way that a lot of people are viewing our Constitution now. Yeah, we'll go with that. The Supreme Court more or less took a sounding of how the rest of the country was viewing the Constitution at that particular time. Where were you guys? I'm not going to be one of those people that somebody 50 years from now is going to be saying, where were you guys? Because, look, Casey and I are going to be on record. We were right here screaming the whole time, guys, we got to get back in touch with divine providence. The very thing that helped found this country.
When the term godless communist returns again to the insult that it once was, we're going to keep talking this. And I mean godless.
Imagine that being that's what we're being called now. We're turning into a godless nation. And not only are there a whole mess of folks okay with that, there's people actively trying to make that a reality. I saw this bumper sticker today that I see all the time that said coexist, and it has all these different symbols for different religions and everything on it. Coexist. I told my son, they put that bumper sticker on there as if to say, there's plenty of room in this country for us all to get along and for us all to live and be here together. The plain truth of the matter is the T at the end that they use, they make the cross there. They want that gone. They just wish us Christians would just shut up and get out of their way. They say that we are a hate group now. We've let that happen by our silence because we don't want anybody making fun of us. I mean, if they start making fun of you and laughing at you, then, gosh, that might do harm to your reputation, and then eventually your bank account would start suffering, and then you wouldn't have those material things that you want so badly. I think it's easy for me and Casey to be where we are because, quite frankly, enough people have made fun of us and done us wrong that, we're like, oh, okay. And we already, materialistically, we don't really have anything there to lose either.
We're already broke.
We're broke. I mean,
and we're not talking Hillary Clinton broke either.
Really, I mean, we're already at the 0.00 mark there. So, maybe it is easier for us to say, what have we got to lose? But when you look at this country as a whole and say, what do we got to lose?
It's a different matter entirely.
Is all your material possessions, are they worth giving up the United States of America for? Are they worth trashing the Constitution over? Are they worth your soul? Because ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to. Is your reputation worth your soul?
Is getting called a dirty name on Facebook, is that worth your soul? Is having somebody who promotes the murder of babies defriend you on Facebook, is that worth your soul?
And is that such a bad thing? I mean, I'm to the point now that if what I'm saying bothers you that much on Facebook, and believe me, we're talking about Facebook here. If you care that much about what somebody says about you on social media, you've got bigger problems than I can help you with right now. You definitely need to hit your knees.
Well,
guys, if mockery and ridicule is all that the other side has to throw at us,
what are you scared of?
We as Christians, if that's all the enemy has to throw at us, then we as Christians just deserve the butt whoopings that we're taking. Because we will have become a religion of wimps and wusses. Because if you can't take a little name calling, I bet some of them early Christians would have been okay with somebody pointing and laughing at them as opposed to crucifying them or throwing them to a bunch of wild animals to tear apart.
Or skinning them alive.
Yeah.
Stoning them to death.
I mean, as a Christian nation, it's really time for us to say just how strongly do I believe this stuff? How firm are my beliefs? Are they strong enough to take the simple step to get down on your knees and pray and say, God, show me what to do? Tell me how to live? Because honestly, if every person in this country, scratch that, if just every self-described Christian in this country would pray, take that simple step, and pray every day and ask for God's guidance, believe it or not, all of these problems would go away. They would be resolved because we as a nation would know what to do. They would be fixed in voting booths, in protest lines or whatever. Everything can be fixed by every self-described Christian taking that one simple step.
Wait, are you telling them they all got to go to church every
Nope.
Sunday?
Nope. All I'm suggesting is that they talk to their Maker. Now, I will say that if you spend enough time talking to God,
You'll go to church
you'll
anyway.
eventually end up at a church someplace, somewhere. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to tell you to go. I'm not going to tell you to just jump right in and do that. I'm not suggesting anything radical at all. Just a simple step of praying, communicating with God, your Creator and mine. That's it. That's all I'm suggesting. If that seems too difficult for you to do, if it seems like too much work or too big of a hassle or whatever, then I'm going to let you explain that to them. Because on that issue, my conscience will be clear. Because not only am I taking that step myself, not only is Casey taking that step, not only is our family taking that step, but we're practically on our knees begging you who hear this broadcast to take that step too.
Okay, we're begging. We ain't almost begging. We are begging. I'm begging.
Yeah. It's not complicated, guys. And it's the one thing that's going to get us out of this quagmire that we're in. And, I have it on good authority. I have it on really good authority because in the Holy Bible, there is a passage that states, if my people who were called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven. I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land.
2 Chronicles
7:14. From God himself. He tells us all we got to do is just humble ourselves a little bit and talk to him. And, it's like I said Tuesday night, those wicked ways, our silent consent is wicked.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to stop that first. Stop the silent consent. That is a wicked way.
I'll promise you this. If you pray and if you seek God's face in turning around to seek the face of God, you will be turning from your wicked ways.
Yep.
It's
And that silent consent will stop.
That's exactly right.
All right, guys. It's Thursday. We'll see you again on Tuesday. I can't promise you that we'll be talking about anything else. Because quite frankly, we ain't got this right yet. But I can just about guarantee that we will be talking, though. Lord willing. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Be good to each other.
Good night, y'all.